This is Mr. Bubenga, home of Trent's Homemade Custom Guitars, and I am Trent. So I haven't posted in a while, but this is a video that I really want to do here. If you've seen some of my other builds, you would know I'm a big fan of doing something cool with the output jack. And I was thinking back, and I'm going to show you some examples of this later in the video, but I've always been a fan of it. I was thinking back, the first guitar I did something different with the jack. And I was thinking in the progression, you know, just over the years, I've always wanted to do something different with it. So I just want to step it up, and normally when I do it, I kind of wing it and go, okay, when I do this, I should have enough room, and I'll hit the control cavity and not be in the way of the knobs that are in there and stuff. So I really want to dial it in better. So I actually prototyped this one. So I added a block of wood. This is cut at a 30-degree angle to the top. Similar how I did it on the Mockingbird build. Then I can get it in the drill press with the table set. This would actually be at like 60 degrees. So I'm parallel to this angle and I can go through. When I glued it on, I measured out lines compared to a center line that was straight. So I got perpendicular lines at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. So now that I have this drilled out, I could actually cut this, get a cross section, and I can get measurements of how far the drop is for the top and bottom of the jack, so I know I'm coming at a good spot, that I'm completely submerged, because the idea is I have my jack right here. If this is the plane of the guitar, I don't want it all under. I want it where it's partially over and partially under the plane of the top. So that's why there's an extra piece glued here. I put the angle on there. Most of this front will be gone, but this way I have a flat surface to drill into, which makes it easier than just coming in at a 60-degree angle. So I'm going to glue this on. Then this is part of the prototype. I drilled this out so I could fit the jack in there. And this could get inserted and glued into here. Whenever you put something on an angle and you need a nut on the back to hold this in place, if I just went in the control cavity on an angle and the wall is straight, you can't properly tighten this nut. In the past, I've had guitars that were like that, and it's, you know, every few months you gotta take the plate off, tighten it up, because it will get loose. If I put an insert in there, now, once this is at the proper area, the nut will be perpendicular to the shaft of this. So it solves that problem. So I'm going to show you what I got here. This is my Bo Diddley inspired P-Bass. I'm going to decide how Bo Diddley it stays. But for now, I'm going to call it that. But I need my indexing holes so I can put it back on and off the CNC if I need to. I don't have any markings here, but somewhere about in this section is where there's going to be two knobs. It's just going to have a volume and a tone with a single pickup, so it's pretty simple. So in this section where it comes down is where I'm going to put the jack. So I've got this piece of wood, which is a cutoff from the neck. I had holes in it. That was for indexing on the CNC, so I just plugged those with something different. But once that goes in, you won't see that part anyway. You'll only see the outside. So the inside of the hole that gets countersunk to the jack will have the Padauk stripes with maple veneer accents through the wenge. And then the other thing, I don't have a piece of wood right next to me here, but I will be adding Padauk to the top of this in the same way that I added this. So, step one, I'm going to cut this, get a cross section so I can get some measurements. Then I figure out where exactly my two controls are going to be, and then I can measure back from there, and then I can get a straight line where I want the angle, measure back the same amount, bam. And then next time I do this, because I'm not going to take good notes, I'm just going to watch this video. So I guess step one, I got to cut this up, get the cross section, then cut a piece of Padauk once I know the size after doing this test. This I need to drill out, put on the lathe, and once I do that, I'll be waiting for glue to dry. So that'll be probably it for today. And this won't actually get installed into the guitar till tomorrow and glued. So it probably won't be till the day after that that I actually start shaping the top of it. So, see what happens. So I got the cross section here. I'm gonna come a little closer. So from the inside of the cavity, actually previously I drilled out from the back so I knew approximately where it was. So there is some gaps up here that wouldn't be there if I didn't do that first. But for testing, I know this is gonna work. So I come out enough right there with an exact 2-inch back from where the angle was. Once I put the jack in there, which I put over here, I can't drill this tube, the inside of it, to fit the flange of this yet, because it'll get too thin and I won't be able to install this without breaking it. So I got to drill that later. So to get an idea, I'm going to kind of hold this. I'm not going to see it as good as you guys on this view, but to get this where it sticks out the back and I can get a nut, I can get it where this is, I don't know if this is lined up, but you can see this is above and below the plane when it lines up. If you can see that piece of wood there. Maybe if I come on the other direction, I could line it up where you could see it properly. So I would come out the back of that brown part. I'm not all the way in, but basically you get the idea. I can't get a good angle looking at it. So it'll go in something like that. So from this line, by the time you get room to use, to get, wires onto these, I need about 3 inches away. I need to be 3 inches away from, that would be the tone pot. So I'm gonna have to go look at where exactly those go, measure 3 inches back, and then I know where to glue the piece of Padauk on the actual body of the bass. Once that's glued, I'll start making this insert out of this piece for the real one, and I'll have to wait for that glue to dry. Once I have this, I'll have it ready to go, or at least real close. I'll go slightly oversized, because I had to wait for the glue to dry before I could drill the hole into this piece. Then I could fit this properly into the piece, glue it in, then the following day, all the shaping will happen. So I guess I'm gonna cut a piece of Padauk, get this on the lathe, and keep this rolling. So this is going to look really weird. I'm going to take this chunk of wood right here and I'm going to glue it right there. And it looks like, wow, it looks so good. Why are you going to put this big chunk of wood here? Well, to make it work, I don't need it to be this thick, but the piece of wood that I, had was thicker than I needed. So I'm going to put it on this big. Most of this is going to be gone, but I find for myself, maintaining symmetry is easier than achieving symmetry. So if I'm way thicker than I need to be, I could start rounding it off and get things symmetrical, and then as I go down, just keep it symmetrical. And if I get off a little bit, I just balance, just go a little more this way, and then you just take your way down, until you got it. So I wouldn't have, if I had a thinner piece, I would have used it, but since it's thicker, I'm just gonna go with that. So most of this, it's not gonna even make it this far back. This is just basically a flange for drilling. Where it meets up, where this line and this line, I don't know if you can see it, but they're lined up with my fingers. That's approximately where the circle part of this is going to be. Obviously diagonal, halfway above and halfway below. When I say half, I don't necessarily mean it has to be 50-50. If it's a 60-40, 30-70, it's just the idea of it is partially up and partially down. It's easier to say half up, half down. So I drew some lines, figured out where it's got to go. I've got dots of where, for standard, where the two controls are. And that's an approximate circle of how much room it takes. When this comes out the back, it's actually going to come out about a ½ inch before this. This is everything on top is just so I could slope down. It will get inside about a ½ inch before, but that's to where the nut is going to be. Then it sticks out, so there might be some interference. This isn't actually circle, so I could turn it and index it in a different direction to give me room. But if I have to, I could take these and move them slightly up. I don't think I'm going to have to move them by more than a ½ inch or maybe ½ inch, worst case scenario. So I'm going to line this up where it looks good. I already did that and, drew my lines of how to glue this on. So I'm just going to glue this on. So that's what we're doing. All right, we're not going to need much glue here. There's not much that we're doing. So I'm just going to throw a little down. Here we go. I got this little tip here that I've seen someone do, and I used it a couple times. It seems to work and not really affect anything in a negative way. If you take a little bit, you don't need much, just a little bit of salt, and you can just get a little on there. It'll actually grip in a little bit. It won't really harm the glue joint, but it'll help it when you're clamping it from sliding around. Alright, so that's where we gotta be. That didn't move a bit. Normally, especially on things that you're clamping with one clamp, when you're doing something with two clamps on a longer piece, then with the first one you start to wiggle a little bit, and then you get the second one and you can always readjust the first one. But on something like this, it's just one. So I just added that little bit of salt, and it worked. I've only done it a couple times. I thought it was a good tip, so I figured I'd share that. And I guess to give credit, it would have been Driftwood Guitars. That's where I've seen that. Big fan, by the way. So all that's getting away anyway, so I don't really have to get it off, but alright, so that's as far as I'm taking this part of it for today. I still am gonna throw this on the lathe, get it at least round but oversized, and I'm gonna wait until the hole is drilled, and then I'll fit it, exactly at the time right before gluing. So that's that step. Whoops, totally forgot. I drilled this out. I didn't get any footage of it, but I just drilled this. True story. So the way I put this on the lathe, I've got this mandrel that is for making pens. On a pen, you would have a brass tube that goes in the inside so all the mechanisms work, and you would drill a hole just like this, and you would glue the tube into it. I'm not using a tube for this application, so it's a little bit different. So I just found the bushings that would fit the 1/2-inch hole. So I've got some, so I could put them in the inside. I'm going to use 2. And if you look, they'll end up just being spaced out where the wide sides are like that. Within the inside, they will be able to move back and forth, but they got the same diameter, 2 points of contact, so everything, you know, it can't go up and down and stuff like that. These can move this way. But I'm going to take these bigger bushings. I've got a couple that are much bigger, so I'm going to put one before it and one after it. So when I tighten the nut on there, I'll have pressure from the big bushings sandwiching together to hold it tight onto the mandrel. The 1/2-inch bushings holding it stable and centered. So I'm just going to put that together real quick. Big bushing. Now I'm going to take the 1/2-inch with the larger side, the 1/2-inch side, farther. That will fit in there. Now I take the other one with the 1/2-inch towards the outside, just so I have more space between the two to help hold center. With pens, you get a lot of super glue in things, so sometimes that gets a little stuck. That's there, that's there. The big bushing and the nut. So this will go on the lathe. It's got a number 2 Morse taper, goes in, you take your end stock, bam, and you start turning. All right, so here you can see the mandrels on the lathe. I'm going to get this right now. It's not much bigger than what I need, so I'm going to get it right down till it's perfectly circle where I knock all the corners off, and I'm only going to be able to go about an extra 1/8 of an inch past that. So I'm going to get it to round, see where I'm at. I might have to drill my hole, which I haven't done yet, a hair smaller. I'm going to have to see how much, you know, I was limited to the thickness of this, you know, because that was the piece that I had to get one that matches. So let's see what happens. No, I'm not there yet, but I just like looking every once in a while. You know, basically just knock the corners off a little. All right, those. All right, a little more. Nice little flat on both sides. Okay, still got a flat over here. It's all round. Let's see where we're at. It's gonna have to come lower. We're still at, we're only about 13 thousandths under an inch. So we're at like 987. So we got to get down to about 875. So we should be looking good without altering the original plan on the hole size. All right, so it's just about there. I'm gonna actually just use sandpaper, and I'm just gonna do that. And when you're sanding, you got to take the guard off because you want to sand from the bottom because it's moving away from you. If you had the guard, you could pull your hand right into that. If I would sand on the top, it's pushing towards me, you jam your finger in it that way. So you're always on the bottom when you're sanding. There's still a hair of a flat, not much. Okay, well that feels... Okay, there might be just a barely right there. Let's see what our dimension is. If the vinyl had a little flat there, if you put it on the bottom side, you would never see it anyway. So we're still just above 950, so we'll have no problem at all. So I'm just going to leave it at this for today. Wait until I could drill that hole, and then since this bushing and the nut are both smaller than the dimension that we're going for, I could pull this whole mandrel off without taking the wood off and do a test fit into the hole. And then I could easily and quickly bring it back to the lathe to finalize the fit. So that brings us to the end of today, and we will come back through tomorrow. Clamp the guitar into the drill press here. It's on the table, so you can see drill press. So that's going to give me the angle so I could drill through. I barely have enough room for the handle to clear when it goes here, but I think it's going to work, so we're just going to do it. Well, I just turned the camera off, but actually I just turned the camera on. So I didn't get the drill of that. I got this mounted in the drill press here. I just went through, missed the footage of it, got it as deep as it's going to go. I can finish it with a hand drill. The Forstner bits are real easy to keep straight, so it'll work. So you missed that whole drill press part, so you just get to see me finish it off with the hand drill. It goes nice and straight because I got a Forstner bit. I checked the fit, and it's pretty tight, so this side goes in first, so I'm going to do a slight taper, take the material mainly off this side, not so much over here, and probably do that 1 or 2 times, and then we'll be ready to glue it in. So, ready to glue this guy in. The side that had the plugs goes in first, so it gets buried. You're not going to see that, but looks pretty nice. It's going to look a whole lot different though. But that's going to go in. I'm going to try to get the lines as straight as possible. And use regular wood glue. This way I'll have some time to move it around. And then I'll be done for the night.
In FP1, but turn 4, absolutely the most dangerous place on the racetrack for it. Let's see how this Haas is handling the middle sector here. Only one chance to get it done here in SQ2.
And Lawson went for the same tactic as well. Lawson, who seemed comfortable. New names entering Formula 1 and proving that they belong in the upper echelon. This is going to be a really interesting moment as we see climbing the hill, looking for a way through. is he's been on
All right,
here for
it's
Williams
done.
in the past.
Plug it in.
Hulkenberg loves this configuration, and that's a standout.
All right, so it's tomorrow. So I've got this glued on. I took off some material. This is nowhere near the amount that's coming off, and that was more or less, I was bored. I was waiting for the glue to dry on the insert, so I didn't want to touch anything here, but the outside was dry. So I took some off, but that was kind of a waste of time, just something to do. So I've got the hole in the insert at a 1/2 inch, so my jack will fit in there. So I've got to open up the end of it to fit the flange of the jack. So I got to open it to 11/16. So I'm going to use this step drill right here. So when that goes in, it'll stay centered. I'll open it to the 11/16, and then this Forstner bit, there's no cutting on the sides, it's only on the front of it, so it's a lot easier to keep straight than a regular drill bit. So once it's open to this, it'll guide itself straight, and then I just got to figure the exact depth of where this has to stop so it comes out in the cavity at the right spot, and also leaves me where the end of it is partially above the plane of the body and partially below the plane. Like I was saying, 50-50 or half and half, 60-40, whatever it ends up being. I just don't want it all under. I want to have that like 3D look. So that's the plan for today. So step 1, step bit, step 2, Forstner bit, and then figure out the depth, and then once that is all finalized, then I can shape the top of it to fit around the opening. So that's the plan. So this step drill goes right up to where my fingernail is in the current size hole. And I've got to get it, I'm not going to use the last size, but the second to last is where I got to get to. So I'm just going to open this up. Yeah, that drill was a impacting drill, so it doesn't work very well with this type of bit. So I just switched out drills. Alright, so now you see that one will fit in there, so I'll swap out to this bit, and then as I go down I will put the jack in, and I can flip over and see the cavity and see how far it's going through, and then incrementally go deeper. So I'm just going to slide that in, and it's I would say that's still 100% above, but we'll take a look anyway. So you can see in there, there's nowhere near close enough to get a nut on there. So I gotta go probably 3/4 of an inch deeper. So I'm not even gonna try to measure it. I'm just gonna probably go 1/2 inch, 3/8, something like that, and then check it, and I will just check it a couple times. Kind of hard to see how much I'm moving with this bit, so I just threw a piece of tape on there. I put this in there, and then just offset the tape backwards a little bit, just so I don't go too far. So it's getting pretty close. We're not quite seeing threads yet on the other side. I'm even with the tape. I'm probably going to go about to the middle of the tape. So it may be hard to see, but I do have enough room to get the nut on there. And I've got probably 3/8 of an inch of threads showing, so it's not even like a borderline that it fits. It'll totally make it right there. You could see, because I have that insert in there, that the flange, you know, there's a flat flange for the nut and washer to sit on, so it could tighten up properly. And I don't think that I'm really going to be able to show you on this side. Yeah, but it looks like it is partially up, partially down. If anything, it's too high, so I might have to go deeper with the hull, but once I start shaping this whole thing, I could go deeper. That won't be a problem. And I guess if I do got to come up, I could always, you know, add a washer nut, you know, something, make some kind of a jam nut for higher up to space it back if necessary. So little by little, I'm gonna kind of make it round, make it more tapered, get it kind of close, and then I'm gonna start taking, you know, more of the top to reveal, because I don't want the complete thing to be hidden in there. So you are gonna see the chrome of the actual jack itself kind of coming out the top. By the time it's done, it'll be kind of comical how big this piece is that I added to the top by the time you see how much is left. But I'm just going slow into it. So you can see this really taking shape, coming down. Right now, it still looks like a rectangle that's on there. But you can kind of get the idea, and you can see these stripes coming in. So once this goes in, oh, it's going to be cool. Still a decent amount down to go, but starting to get an idea. Not completely, but we're starting. So I had to get an assessment. This is pushed in right now all the way. So it's a little bit too deep still. I want to have it revealed a bit more. So this whole top, from the looks of it, I mean, I could easily come down like a 1/4 inch and then get another assessment on there. But just want to show you where it's at. Okay, so now the top, I think, has the reveal it should. So I'm gonna have to taper from here back also, and maybe a little bit of a scoop. It might be a little bit rounded. And then up here, I'm gonna have to start taking the outsides as it goes inwards, and then get everything closer to see how everything molds, and just work it as it happens. Here. So all that extra wood, this is what we came to now. So you can see the extra insert a little bit above the jack. You see it coming back this way. I don't know how much you could see on the camera, the rise of this, but it actually comes up. I don't know if I'll be able to measure it with this. I could probably eyeball, see how close I can get. It comes up by about about 175 thousandths above the plane of the surface here is what the rise is. You can see my finger going up and down. Let's see if we can come around this way. And you can get that in there. So, pretty cool. Yeah, just an extra little bonus feature. Well, Interlagos Quali is about to start in a couple minutes, and it's raining. So, I'm taking a bit of a break. I'm going to watch that, and we'll get right back to it. Well, there's a rain delay. So, I was assessing the situation of how everything's going to fit in here as of the current file that I have for all the CNC cuts. And I was, like I said before, I could slightly modify those and move everything, but this is where they would be. So you could see where the jack comes out. It's not super tight, but it's all the way in. You could see, I mean, it wiggles a little bit, but that's where the wires come out. So I'm not going to have interference with that knob, so I can keep them at their exact regular locations. You see they're shimmed up right now on things, and obviously they're upside down in here, but they'll take up that much depth once they're mounted. I had to shim them because the EMGs just have like a connector set up, so the wires will come off sideways here, so it won't come any higher up. These are going in an upwards direction, completely out of the way, so everything will work without any modifications. So I could continue on. I got to get those holes drilled on the CNC, and then I still will have to, let me see, I'll take a quick look. So now that the exact location of the jack is established and I know I have no interference, I can get it back on the CNC, drill these two holes. I've got to do the routing for the pickup still. And really that's it for the front. And the back, the only thing that I'm going to do is right where the jack comes out here, I'm going to open this cavity slightly up, but on a 30-degree angle. And that's just going to make it easier to tighten the nut on that. I left this overly big just because I thought the cover looks better following this arc instead of making it smaller here, and I wasn't sure when it comes out if something was going to happen where I would have to open anything up. So I got plenty of room here. I'm going to open it up maybe to where my fingernail is there. You know, I'll follow a curve there and make that work. I'll probably have to do it in a couple shots. I'll go a little bit at a time because I can't really transfer the location of this into the file with the amount of measuring I would have to do to get that accurately in the computer would take more time than doing this 3 times. So that's how that's going to go. And then once those are done, I can cut the thing out. Right now, the only reason that it's still in the rectangle is because I have indexing holes, so I can locate it properly back and forth into the CNC. And I have the holes obviously on the back and the front, so I could flip over and I am completely indexed to the 0 point of the machine. So it looks like by the end of the weekend this will be in the shape of an actual instrument. That was the final cut. So I keep a couple tabs on there just to hold the body in a couple spots. There's a small amount to the surround of it because that's what's holding it in. The clamps were all on those outside. You can't cut through a clamp. So there's a couple tabs. One of them was actually in a spot where it didn't get used. So sometimes those break out. Sometimes you got to cut them out. But once I pull this out, it won't even be able to go back into the machine. So it's a pretty exciting step when you get to pull it out of here and then you see like an actual shape. So let's see if it breaks or if I gotta cut it. Yeah, let's hit that right there. That one right there. Whew. It's like an instrument now. So you can see on the back right there, that's where there was a tab, and that's where there was a tab. Simple to sand off, but that was enough to hold it from moving in the final part of the cut. But nice and smooth on the edges there. The back, I'm doing the contour all by hand. The front will get smoothed a little bit more. I did most of the contour there, but yeah. This is a real good look of what it's going to look like. You can see straight on where the contour, because of the way it is layered, it goes into that. You get that just border around the whole thing. You get into the core layer here. On the back, you get in the core layer here and here. Once I round this over, you're going to get some of the Padauk that shows all around. But overall, yeah. So, you know, some contouring to do, smoothing of the contours. I got a drill for tuners up here. I'm gonna have to make a nut. I got to get the bridge, you know, mounted up. So, still a decent amount of work, but hey, this is always like one of those like milestone steps. Bam. It looks real now. It is real. Oh, whoa, whoa. You gotta see this. After I got that jack in, I got the whole thing cut out. It's officially off the CNC now. I can't even index it back in. I've got the routing for the pickup. I've got my controls in there. I've got this in there. I've got the back. I'm gonna show you some details. Well, we've seen the neck in other videos, but just as a little refresher, that scarf joint is cool. And you could properly see this transition in here with everything cut out. I've actually got one coat of shellac on the back side of it right now, so that'll kind of give a good representation of the color. You can see just how those three woods blend together so nice. We got kind of a bigger round over on the back, so it's a little bubbly. Inside the cavity here, I was talking about this. I didn't show this step, but right there you could see where it's cut at an angle. So once you get in here, if there wasn't a shadow, you could see that's where the insert is right there. So you could see that this just blends right into it. So that's going to be nice for, you know, being able to get to it. You could see the channels here from way early on, before I even had the Duke on the front. I had channels going from here to the pickup cavity so I can get my wires there. And from here, I have to get a ground wire to the bridge. So that's what those are for. So the front now, again, a little refresher on the whole neck there. And we come in with the pick guard look. You can see I've got the pickup cavity in there all nice. There's not going to be any trim ring or anything like that around the pickup, so it's going to be, it's real nice and tight to it, and just the pickup just coming through. Again, you can see how the transition looks with the layering. That is where the ground wire for the bridge is going to come through, so that corresponds with one of those channels you saw on the back. And of course, that's just pretty awesome. And then I had to go a little bit thinner to get the controls to fit, so I could take material off the front or the back. So I just decided to dish those out. You know, since I have it where coming up here, you know, have those go down, so it just adds to the whole 3D effect. So pretty cool. Just to get an idea of the finish, I'm going to show you one other thing real quick. So this one is from the GGBO build, and it's the same three types of wood. So, but this is, you know, with finish on there. So just to get an idea, you know, also, like I said, about the jacks, this one I did differently. The inside, what you see is actually the core of the guitar as it goes through. I did not put an insert, which makes for a problem in the back. But the part that I glued onto it, that similar to the bass, this is a part of this neck. So, and I did slightly go in on these ones as well, pretty subtly. So same kind of idea, but I just wanted to show you the finish of how, you know, eventually it could look, you know. So here's some of that. So just a few days ago, all I had was, you know, this prototype for the jack, and now I got it in. So thanks for watching. Mr. Bubenga, home of Trent's handmade custom guitars. That's it.